She's Katy Montgomery. He's Justin Joseph. These best friends are serving subpoenas to bad advice weekly with Wrong Way Forward. Now, here's Katy and Justin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. I'm Justin Joseph, here along with my best friend, Katy Montgomery, our technologically challenged friend, because, of course, as you all know, if you've been following our podcast, she's in her third home in 3 weeks. She's technically homeless because she's remodeling her home. And so what do you have, another 5 months left?
No, I'm not getting back in until February.
It's painful for all of us who have
It's really killing Justin that I am not tech savvy and that it takes me forever to actually get online in all my different locations. We did try this in my brother's basement a few weeks ago and we had to abandon ship, and we are now in my sister's. She has a kind of a loft condo, so we're kind of like in concrete, so we might have an issue here too. But fingers crossed we can get through an episode.
Yeah, what she's doing is she's doing today's topic to her house. She's what they call Looksmaxing her house. Katy, tell us what Looksmaxing is.
So Looksmaxing has been a part of the manosphere, and this is a group of men who are basically, and I've got to pull out my notes, who have basically gone in and said, look, we want to appeal to a certain percentage of the women. And so basically they say is that 20% of men get 80% of the women. And in order to fall in that 20% category, they're doing things like leg lengthening surgery. They're using extreme beauty products. They're having cosmetic surgery. They're doing something called mewing, which I've tried to figure out so I don't have a double chin in photos, and I still can't figure out how to do it. But I think you
That's
put
the
your
up
tongue,
and over?
Yeah, it's like you put the tongue at the top of your mouth, and it gives you maybe a greater cheekbones. They're trying to have hunter eyes versus prey eyes. And even someone went as far to take a hammer to break his jawbone so it would regrow back stronger and sharper. And so it is this community that is literally going in and butchering themselves for this ideal version of male beauty.
And that's so they can sex it more.
I think that. And Justin, neither one of us are great at the pronunciations, but I think there is one person, his name's Brandon Peters, but he goes by, how do you pronounce it?
I say clavicular, but I have no idea.
I don't think there's a V in it.
Well, clavicle, isn't it clavicle? It's off his clavicle. I don't know.
It's something, but he's gone
What?
by this name. And he was recently hospitalized on April 14th.
It's clavicular, Clavicular.
Okay.
Clavicular.
Clavicular. Okay. And so he's kind of the poster boy for this. He was hospitalized on April 14th of a suspected overdose. But,
Did you watch that video?
No, tell me about it.
So he was in. So what he does, he's gained. I think he's got 5 million followers or something crazy. And the way he does is he goes and does. Hopefully you're listening to us on a podcast, not watching us on YouTube. If you are, apparently a hurricane has struck. A hurricane has struck. A hurricane is currently striking
I am
Birmingham.
laughing so hard I can't fix this camera.
I'll continue while please pick up our YouTube views and take a look at what a mess this is. This will be a clip later, but this is
Justin, it's out of control.
because if you're not watching us on YouTube, we're now staring at a shot of war-torn Birmingham, Alabama, because we're looking at Katy's ceiling. I think this shot is frozen. I'll just keep talking until we get her back on, and we'll see if we get her back on. But so Clavicular goes to different venues, and he will do live broadcasts, and he will talk to women. He's a good-looking guy. If you haven't seen him, you should Google him. It's Clavicular. But he will do live broadcasts, and then he will just go up and talk to women, and he'll say things like, would you sex me, etc. Anyway, he was doing one of these live broadcasts. It looked like someplace in Las Vegas, and I don't know if Katy's going to be joining us or not. I'm seeing a still image of a ceiling fan. Anyway, he was doing one of these live broadcasts with friends, and he started sort of zoning out. And the friends you could tell that the friends noticed this because, they kept looking over at him, and he was sort of going blank face. And the next thing you know, they turned the live feed off, and then it hit the media, of course, that he had a suspected overdose. Their friends rushed him to the hospital where he was taken in. Katie, do we have you back? Okay.
Yeah.
I do. I was just telling everybody about Clavicular, how he went out. I was actually telling everybody about your ceiling fan.
Yes.
The white ceiling fan that we were staring at.
Yeah. This is killing me slowly and softly because I don't think I'm a perfectionist, but I would like this to come off somewhat professional. And this camera keeps moving. It's driving me insane. And so I do apologize. But,
Did you turn off the AI follow function that we talked about?
I have
So it
no
doesn't
idea
follow
what
you?
that is.
In your Insta controller, there's an AI function. Is AI follow? You can disable it. We'll talk about it at break. Anyway, so Katie, I just filled everybody in about his blackout. I talked about how he gets his fame. Let me play a clip from this. If you're wondering what kind of person this is, let me play a clip, and we'll talk about it on the other side. This is Clavicular on a show that he was doing, I guess, another podcast, and this gives you a very good idea of what Looksmaxing is.
Because I was a dick person.
Yeah.
Hold on, here we go.
Would you rather lose your hair or your dick? Because I was a dick person. Yeah. I would look terrible without hair. I'd look sick. But if you go bald, you could go jacked. You could go Bruce Willis kind of.
No, that just makes you look like one of those cringe red pill jesters. I feel.
I think they're jesters too.
I kind of just like to refer back to the quote, like hair is life, and if you have no hair, you have no life.
Did you hear that, Katie? So apparently I have no
did.
life.
But here's the thing. What's the point of doing all this and you said something like the way they ask it is, will you sex me? If somebody said, will you sex me?
No,
I'd be
that's me.
Oh, that is so gross. But you can't sex if you don't have a dick.
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying, oh, because, yeah, you're right. And he's all
Yeah.
about sexing. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
what
if he
does.
has a head full of hair and then he doesn't have a dick, I think most women would be like, that's weird, I'm out.
So Clavicular has built an incredible success off of these types of stunts. He has a $10 million home in Florida. Like I said, he's got a gazillion followers on YouTube, and he is one of these influencers that gets paid just to promote brands. His most recent stunt is that he said he was going to throw a modeling show, and whoever won the modeling show would be able to bear his children or bear a child from him. And I'm sure you find that
That's
repulsive.
disgusting and very repulsive. I think what's interesting is, I don't know if you remember Joel Stein. He used to be on MTV and VH1. But I read an article that he wrote in the Wall Street Journal on April 15th, and it's called Dear Boys, Looksmaxing is a Fool's Errand. And this is a guy who started, he was, pudgy, middle-aged, kind of like, at that stage in life, married with kids, and decides to kind of get his, body in shape. And so he went and got a hair transplant. He got a six-pack. And he said, I literally thought, in Justin's terms, I would get the sex all the time from my wife. He's like, I thought that, I was Adonis, I was looking good. And instead, it made her that much more, kind of self-conscious about herself. And she didn't get turned on. She got too much in her head of like, well, look at my body compared to yours. And then what he also said is the way that we would bond is having a drink or going out to dinner. And she's like, well, it's not fun anymore because you just want to eat alfalfa sprouts and drink a glass of water. And she's like, I enjoyed doing these social things with you and having conversation. And that's what also turns me on. And so I thought it was really funny to see kind of what this concept of looksmaxing looked like for a middle-aged person who was in a relationship. So it's not all about, the body. And what he said I thought was really interesting. I thought it was a great quote is, confidence is attractive, self-absorption is not. And I can tell you that as a woman.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, self-absorption is not attractive. And when you are that attentive to your body, it's almost a turnoff. I would much rather you be funny and confident and engaged and interested than spending all your time on a six-pack. But I think why this is really the wrong way forward, Looksmaxing, is what they're saying is that this is leading to body dysmorphia, physical risks, and then what I'd never heard these terms before, Justin. Had you heard the terms black pill, red pill?
No, but if you heard that quote or the podcast I played from him, he says something. Oh, that's just red pill gestures. I was like, I have no idea what that means.
So I think what it
mean?
is they talk about black pill are things that you cannot change, and red pills are things that you can change. And people are this kind of group is getting obsessed with what you can manipulate and change. And I'm like, how happy or satisfied can you ever be in your life? And I think that's what we're all searching for is contentment and balance and comfort. If you're constantly, looking for these red pills to change, you're never satisfied. So it's like, what level of happiness does that bring?
100%. On the other side of the break, let's talk about Kardashian. Do we think this is all a symptom of when they started changing their faces and their bodies? Was a lot of women followed them now, or the men following them? We'll talk about that on the other side. We'll be right back on Wrong Way Forward.
You've been listening to Wrong Way Forward, where bad advice goes to die and then gets resurrected just so we can roast it again.
If you're enjoying the chaos, hit like and subscribe and come back every Thursday for new episodes.
Have a new topic or some disastrously bad advice you want to dissect? Email wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Include your contact info.
Now back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
So before we were talking about Looksmaxing, and clavicular. Clavicular. That's what it is. Clavicular, I think. But anyway, we're talking about him. And my question to you, Katy, was, do we think that when the Kardashians, because, you look at Kim Kardashian, she looked totally different before she did all this. She's a beautiful woman now. And they hired the best of the best. They look like it. I think they're pretty women. I think their changes were worth it, frankly. But are men following is the question.
I think so. But let's be honest. We have always heard about plastic surgery and enhancements and trying to be, to more beautiful than, kind of we are by the default, And so I think about like the first person who came to mind when you were talking about that was Anna Nicole Smith.
Right.
Anna Nicole Smith, was, a lot of kind of plastic surgery. We've seen, even Oprah obsessed with like, weight loss. We've, constantly, Oprah also, just remember, she used to take people out of the audience and do a makeover, right?
Yeah.
It was always about like improvement and looking better. What I think is interesting is people didn't in the mainstream talk about plastic surgery. They got it, but there was always a denial. Now people, I think it's Kylie. Kylie is like, yes, my breasts are this size. I got this implant and I got 24 cc's in each. People are being much more, it's not on the down low. It's not trying to kind of pass as though, it's natural. You're just being very honest about your surgery. I think even Kris Jenner gives the name out of her plastic surgeon. So I think it has become more acceptable. And I think because of that, it has become where men can be more open and more honest about their vanity and say that they're having these kind of surgeries.
Well, it was kind of like when people started getting on the GLP-1s, no one would admit it. You knew Oprah dropped, Lizzo, Oprah, Kelly Clarkson. None of them would admit it. Yeah. They were like, oh no, I'm blessed. I can afford a nutritionist. I'm like, oh, fuck off. I'm like, that's not what's going on here. So, it's this, I think with the Kardashians, I think early on, before they were who they were not admitting that they were getting all this done. Once they became who they were, it's, once you get to the top of the mountain, it's much easier to explain how you built the runway to get there. So anyway, but I do think that they follow them. Let's listen to, this is one of the other quotes this is one of the other things that Clavicular said, which I thought was kind of funny. Let's listen to this.
I would never go back to school. I'm already doing good enough on social media where I can't even think about the word school.
What if you could be a plastic surgeon?
If you're going to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans, you might as well invest it into surgery rather than going to school.
What if
and by the way, you can actually get college loans and use it for surgery. So this is a method. I've been telling people, you can literally do that. Misappropriating the funds, it's really not going to get you in that much trouble, and you'll mog, so you'll be able to sort of get out of it.
Can I ask you a question? Is it like, look?
I don't know what mog is, but you'll be able to mog.
I think he may be the dumbest man alive, and I think when they went in and did some plastic surgery, they took out some brain cells and they took out his prefrontal cortex because I'm literally, if anybody's watching me on YouTube, my face was just of disgust. I was, and just in absolute awe of how dumb he is.
He is nice looking. I don't know if you heard me say that. He does look good, but
I don't care. Again, I do think most people, yes, like if you're in a crowded room, who are you going to be attracted to? If somebody's walking down the street, who may you take a second look at? People who are probably physically attractive. But what is something about a relationship? Like, I want to have a conversation. I want to talk about world events. I don't want to be with someone who commits fraud. I think this is ridiculous. It's like, yeah, you might, like you said, sex someone, but at a certain point, he's only going to be able to do so much. Is he going to want to have a long-term relationship? Is he going to want to have stability? He's going to have to find a pretty vapid person who's interested in being with him long-term.
Do you think he's immature? Is that what this is? You think that he'll mature out of this? It's not, do you think he's immature? He's clearly immature, but will he mature out of this?
I don't know if he'll mature out of it, because I think right now it's his livelihood. And I've read quite a few articles about youth and people who go on and they've got a social media following and YouTube, and it's just a constant chase and rat race to maintain and to also show growth. And so my guess is this is his niche, and if he can't, he's not very bright, so unless he's got some really good advisors, I think he's sticking with this because he's starting to live a certain lifestyle. He's bringing in a certain amount of money. And my guess is he's going to try to maintain that. Or with the suspected overdose and the poor behavior and the body dysmorphia, it could result in something even more horrific, which could be death.
He did an interview with the New York Times, and these were a couple of the interesting quotes I thought. The New York Times writes, his worldview is as extreme as his methods, a Darwinian social battlefield where men compete for dominance and status, and appearance determines everything. Clips of him mogging, that's the word he used, mogging strangers, standing next to them just to make them look inferior, have flooded social media. Alongside brutally blunt ratings of women's looks. By 2026, he hasn't just gone viral, he's taken over. Despite projecting hyper-masculine dominance, Clavicular casually revealed that he'd slept just 3 hours the night before because he was, in his words, slaymaxing. Even sex for him is less about connection, more about optimization, something to be achieved, logged, and moved past. It's a glimpse into mindset where nothing, not even intimacy, exists outside the pursuit of his status.
You know what just really resonated with me is he sounds like a really mean person. And, to literally stand next to people and like mock them and their looks. And then the fact that there's a social media following, I think that is a real commentary on what is happening in the current world, where it's like, it is okay to be mean. When we have leaders who are nasty and mean, it is becoming acceptable in our culture to treat people like this. And the fact that he's doing it, but that he has a massive following that is giving him millions of dollars by making fun of people. In addition, I probably would not find this guy attractive. That's just not my style. But in addition to being stupid, he's a raging asshole. So I have to say, anyone who's decided to be with him is not a fantastic person. Or they probably have really bad self-esteem.
I totally agree. Wrong way forward on him, and you have agreement on wrong way forward. When we come back on this side, we'll talk about a person who's young, who is using their fame and influence for the right reason. Someone who they are calling the next Einstein. We'll talk about her on the other side. We'll be right back. Thanks for streaming Wrong Way Forward, the weekly reminder that advice is usually free for a reason. We call out bad advice wherever it hides: boardrooms, break rooms, and even book clubs.
Enjoying this dumpster fire? Like, subscribe, and check back every Thursday for new episodes. Want us to roast your favorite piece of nonsense? Email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include your contact info. We're not psychic, just judgmental. And now, back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin.
Hi, and we're back. And in this block, Justin and I want to kind of switch gears from the Looksmaxing Clavicular, or whatever his name is, who I think is the biggest asshole who walks
He's a woe at.
He is a woe at. But we want to move from a woat to someone who is young. This is a 32-year-old who has a different take on this, who really wants to make the world a better place, and they're calling her the next Einstein. So, Justin, can you give us a little bit of background on
So her name
the
is
next
Sabrina.
Einstein?
Yeah, her name is Sabrina Gonzalez-Petersky. She's 32 years old. What I love about her is she's supposedly so smart that Bezos immediately recognized that. She graduated from MIT, recognized that, and wanted to bring her onto Blue Origin. And she said she declined his very, very, very good offer, saying she doesn't want to make billionaires richer. She wants to make the world a better place. Just to give you an idea of how smart she is, she built her own airplane when she was 12 years old. She applied to MIT. MIT turned her down because they didn't believe her. And so she filmed a video of herself getting into her homemade airplane, flying around saying, "Are you sure you don't want me?" They recruited her. She graduated #1 in her class. She went to Harvard, and then she was offered $1 million at one of the universities to basically come and teach physics. And she turned that down, saying that she could use her skills in a way that was better for the world. So anyway, her quote that get us started says, she said, "Belief doesn't make planes fly. Physics does." Does that anyway?
Justin, do you even know what physics is?
I do know what physics is. It was really hard for me in school. But anyway, I think this is just a good switch off from some really shitty of people for that generation to people who are not.
Yeah, and it makes me really hopeful. And I think, a lot of people of our generation and the generation above us kind of bitch, moan, and complain. But I really think this younger generation, the bulk of them do care about the world, care about making a difference, care about an impact, care about balance. And so I think it's the right way forward for us to land on that note that not all people are trying to make a buck off of other people and are not using a hammer to their jawbone in order to improve their prospects. And so that actually is the right way forward.
I totally agree. And I just love hearing stories of super smart people. I have a friend who, he's one of those people who can walk in a room or look at a brick building and be like, he's autistic, but he's brilliant. And he's like, there's 6,455 bricks on that wall. You've seen movies about it, like Rain Man and that kind of thing. I think it just really speaks to the level of like deity and humanity. And, there's got to be something bigger that put this together that someone can do that. It's just amazing.
I could not agree more. And on that
as we
note,
stare at as we stare at your ceiling fan.
Is it showing my ceiling fan again?
No. From the smartest to the dumbest. You get everything here.
Justin, on that note, if you have any good feeling stories or some assholes like Clavicular that you want us to break down, please, again, I can't pronounce it. Send us an email at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on all of our social media platforms. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week. All right, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Remember, the only thing worse than taking bad advice is giving it.
If you've liked what you've heard, like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you stream podcasts. And if you've got a topic or need some advice we'll probably regret giving, email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.